person who's getting shot is not equivalent to the person. It's not analogous to the other person you're having sex with. It's analogous to the
Yes, yes.
child. The child didn't consent to be brought into the world, just like the person who got shot in the head is not consenting to being shot. And so that's not, you're misunderstanding the analogy because you think
No,
that
it's
me
not
shooting a
analogous.
person is supposed to be analogous to a person having sex.
Yeah, it's not analogous based off of the situation. Okay, when you're having sex, it's between two parties that cause one person to be in a state of dependence. That's going to be the
Yeah, but
child. The parent. Okay, hold up,
I'm
DJ.
causing the person to
DJ,
be in a state of
DJ,
dependence when I shoot them on
DJ.
accident. But me
1 second.
consenting to fire the gun,
Wait, DJ.
you don't need to be patronizing.
Wait, I'm not being patronizing. Your hypothetical is
DJ,
horrible.
low key.
I have no problem
That's
with
a
you
little
saying that. But when
that's
it comes
a
to the
little
situation,
patronizing.
when it comes to the situation, the guy that is in the range, this is between one party that's consenting. Didn't cause another, like two people didn't cause one person, unless if you want to say in this hypothetical that these two people removed someone by shooting them that did not give true informed consent, which I would just say this is immoral because they're infringing upon their private property. But when it is the situation where two parents are consenting to have intercourse, acknowledging that there's a risk that the woman is going to get pregnant, they are understanding that this situation is going to take place. With the range is a bad hypothetical because this person is infringing upon someone else's negative rights to their private property. If you want me to explain to you negative rights, I have no problem with doing that.
I have no idea. Okay. A negative right is a right to non-interference.
Based off of
So
what?
based off of the non-aggression principle.
The NAP? Are you sure you want to say that?
All right. So anyway, you have obligations
This guy's crazy, bro.
beyond those that are provided by your signing a contract.
Like what?
Like if a child shows up at your house, you have an obligation to make sure that they don't die.
Yeah, I would like to know what obligation this is.
It's an obligation to ensure the immediate well-being of an entity that has moral worth that has become dependent on you, even if that was not through the fault of your own.
Wait.
Dog shows up at my house in the wintertime. It would.
Oh my! You sound way better now. Holy shit!
Oh wait, 1 second. My bad. My car turned on.
No, you actually sound way better now.
Okay,
good.
Cool. So, for example, if a dog shows up to my house, this is a bean, and with it being a bean, do I have to let it come into my house in the wintertime if I know it's gonna die because of how cold it is?
Yeah, that's why I said, and I would say it depends on whether you're a vegan. If you're not a vegan, most people aren't, then no, you don't. And that's why I said the words with moral worth. Because if you don't
with
believe that
moral
a dog,
worth. Okay, what has a moral worth?
I think that something with the capacity for a human conscious experience.
Okay, so if someone, let's just say in this hypothetical, something is outside my door, teleported from the 5th or 6th dimension, it looks like a human. Should we value it and bring it inside?
I would say by presumption we would, but I mean, if you have the means to determine whether it's having a human conscious experience before you make that decision, then you feel free to.
Wait, if we don't know this and we can't prove this until we take it to the hospital and everything, why should I bring this inside?
Well, you would default to assuming that it does.
Wait, why
If
should
it
I
looks like
assume?
if it looks like it does and you can't prove one way or another whether it does, you should assume it does.
Wait, why should I assume? Because with your situation, what in your hypothetical where you said we should value this, what was your exact words again?
A being with the active capacity for a human
Okay,
conscious
how do we know that
experience.
it has the active capacity until we're able to take it to like a hospital and show that the brain?
Well, we don't know then either.
Oh, okay, so then why should we value this?
Because there are reasonable inferences we can make about whether something is having a conscious experience like that of a human.
Okay, so if someone's under general anesthesia, teleports into our reality at your front door, right? Do you know what general anesthesia does to your conscious awareness or in your conscious situations?
No, I don't know anything. I never learned how to read.
Oh, okay, cool. So do you want me to give you a PM?
So this is why I said the words active capacity for conscious
Oh, active
experience.
capacity. Okay.
Not a thing that is presently conscious.
Oh, so when it comes to the situation, we do not know if it can have a conscious awareness. We cannot know anything like this because it teleported in front of your door during a winter storm, whatever the fuck. Why should we assume that it had this experience?
You should assume based on reasonable inference. If it looks like a living being and it has a pulse, then the reasonable inference is that it has the capacity for a conscious
And
experience.
if it's hooked up to machines at my door and it teleported there, how do I know?
You I guess you would check as to whether or not the machines are life support machines.
What if they are life support machines?
If the thing is on life support and the reasonable inference is that it will die if taken off the life support, then I guess you can the reasonable inference is that it's a vegetable. I would say it doesn't have the capacity for conscious experience. It doesn't matter what you do to it.
Okay, so are you a doctor by any chance?
Yeah,
You are? Can I ask what is your medical field in?
I'm an oncologist.
Oncologist. Oh, 100% sarcasm. So when it comes to the situations, if you're going to pre-diagnose someone and then you find out at a later time that this person wasn't in a vegetable state, would we give this, like during the situation that you are pre-assuming that they are in a vegetable state, everything like this, would you give it any moral consideration?
Uh, Sorry, say that again.
Would you give it any moral consideration if it's in the vegetable state? To your knowledge, you're pronouncing this as non-conscious, everything under the sun. Would you give it any type of moral consideration?
If my assumption is correct, then no. If my assumption is incorrect, then yes.
Okay, so in the situation, if you're assuming, kind of like what you said, if they're hooked up to life support machines and everything like this and in a vegetable state, would you give it any more consideration? Yes or no?
Well, if it actually is a vegetable, meaning it's undergone 99% of brain death, then it has no capacity for
Wait,
conscious
vegetable isn't
experience. It wouldn't be.
99% brain death. Can I get a source for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what source are we looking at for this?
So I just sent it in chat. Um, a vegetative state occurs when the cerebrum, the part of the brain that controls thought and behavior, no longer functions, but the hypothalamus and brainstem, parts of the brain that control vital functions such as sleep cycles, body temperature, breathing, blood pressure, heart rate, and consciousness, continue to function. Thus, people open their eyes and appear awake, but otherwise do not respond to stimulation in any meaningful way.
This would be counted as brain dead, right?
No, I said the majority of their brain is dead.
Oh, majority. So, like, what percentage would you say?
Um, the percentage that uh constitutes the cerebrum.
What percentage? Because inside of what you just read didn't say a percentage, did it?
Yeah,
So, what percentage?
the percentage of the brain that the cerebrum is made up of.
So the whole like the whole has to be dead for you to count it as like brain dead, right?
Uh, yeah, the part of the brain that controls thought and behavior.
Okay. How are you able to prove if someone is brain dead? Are you able to do this by yourself or do you need machines for this?
Like I said, I would make the assumption based off of the most reasonable inference, not on proof.
Okay, so if they're on life support, are there people that are not in comas on life support?
It's possible.
It's possible. Is this not something that takes place in this real world?
Well, what doesn't take place in the real world is that a person on life support teleports in front of
Yeah,
your
no,
door in
if
the
we
middle of
really
a
want to be
snowstorm.
applicable, if we want to go to the real world situations, okay, cool. So there are people that are in medical comas or at the same time in comas that are on life support machines. Do you disagree with this?
No.
No, okay, cool. Why would we give a moral consideration?
Because they have the capacity for conscious experience.
Past, present, or future conscious experience matters to you.
Um, past, um, the present and future capacity.
So all three matters.
Um,
Which one's the high point for you? Or are they all equal?
one sec, let me think this through. The
Because if you say future, you're gonna get trapped when it comes to pregnancy. If you say present,
yeah,
okay, cool.
well,
Anyone that
no,
is
one
under
sec,
general anesthesia can't have a
one sec,
present
buddy.
situation.
1 second, buddy. Um, well, why does one of them need to matter more than the other?
Yeah, okay. So if you value all three of them and a person only has one of them, should we value this person?
Um, if they only have present,
No, I just said
yeah.
one. I didn't say present.
If they only have, well, that's I'm clarifying. If they only have the present capacity, then yeah.
So present's the
If
highest for
they
you?
no, if they only have the future capacity, then no. If they only have the past capacity, then no. But if they have the past and future capacity, then uh, then yes. And if they, yeah. So I would say the present capacity is a sufficient condition, um, and then the past and future capacity together are a sufficient condition, but neither of the other two in themselves are sufficient for moral worth.
So you need to have two of them, you say.
No, you either need the present capacity or the past and future
Okay,
capacity,
cool.
or
So in
all
this
three.
hypothetical, someone comes into the hospital. We do not know that they had a past experience because they are straight under general anesthesia. We do not know what happened. They are on the floor. They get picked up by paramedics and go straight under general anesthesia. They cannot have a present situation. We don't know that they had a past experience. Why should we value this person?
Um, is the most reasonable inference that they've never been conscious before?
We don't know.
What's the what is the apparent biological age of the
We
human?
don't know.
Okay, well then I would say if it looks like an 8-week-old fetus, then it doesn't have moral worth.
Let's just say it looks like a 6-year-old then,
And I would say
since
the
you wanted
most
to do a
reason
cop
then
out.
I would say the most reasonable inference. It's not a cop out because I'm determining what the most reasonable inference is about their past
Okay, cool.
capacity to
And
have
then
a
we find
conscious
out at a later
experience
point.
based on how old they look.
Yeah, at a later point, we found out that they had no past experience. Should we value them?
If we know that they had no past capacity for conscious experience
And we know only in
and
the future they will.
no present capacity, then no, they don't have moral worth.
Okay, and we know in the future they will. So we should have no moral worth to this person?
Yeah, if a thing there isn't a person there, if there's never been the capacity for a
Wait, what's your
conscious experience,
classifications for a person?
a person is an entity with the present or past and future capacity for conscious
Okay,
experience.
so you would let someone like have sex with this 6-year-old thing.
Um, I wouldn't like it, but I don't like it's not morally in and of itself, it's not morally condemnable.
Not morally condemnable? And you were saying that my moral framework is bad earlier when not like letting this kid in that is unconscious, whatever the fuck, outside my doorstep. You're letting someone have sex with a body that we know in like let's just say 9 months will be able to have the future consciousness, everything like this. You will be letting them have that action done to them.
I mean, I'd probably wanna make it illegal because I
Wait, why?
think it would be indicative of thank you. Thank you for asking why in the middle of the sentence where I was
No
about to
problem.
say why. Um, I think that the desire to have sex with something that looks like an unconscious six-year-old is probably indicative of a serious, mental disease, and that anybody who wants to do that will probably either be emboldened or motivated in some way to take further horrible action that is
And that's a
actually
slippery
against
slope
the
fallacy, I'm sorry
person,
to
and
tell you.
what's at the end of the slope?
Yeah, that's going to be a false narrative where you're saying X plus Y will always equal Z.
What's at the end of the slope, and what is Z
Yeah,
in
the
this
slippery
case?
slope fallacy is going to be you trying to fit a narrative that is not true.
No, like in this case, what's at the end of
Yeah, the end of the
slope? What
slope
are
is
what's
in your
the
situation. You do not value this. So at this situation, this person has no moral
Yeah, by all
consideration.
means, go to
In
bed.
my
You don't gotta
framework,
watch
since
this.
people consented to have
You don't gotta
sex
watch this. Go to
with
bed.
this thing that is
I'll do more calls tomorrow.
6 years old, we
We're just
don't know
hanging out
that
right
they
now.
had a past
But yeah, go
experience
to
or
bed, guys. Go
present.
to bed. Go to
We
bed.
know
Go
in
to
9
bed.
months from now they will
Well,
have a future.
this is in the case that we know that they
Fallacy.
haven't had a past experience.
Yeah, in the case that they didn't.
That's
Yeah,
a small
in
weenie
the case we
fallacy.
know they did not. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to
Big
say with
weenie
this
fallacy.
situation
All the
taking place,
fallacies.
someone caused them to be in a state of dependence, and no one should infringe upon them.
Well, that's assuming they have personhood, but you haven't justified
Yeah,
that.
I don't agree
You
with their
haven't justified
personhood.
Gatorade, yeah.
that.
My hernia hurts, guys.
Like, if you want to
You don't
debate me on my
I
you
want
don't
to get
think there-
surgery.
sorry,
you don't
I want to
but
get
think
like
there
hernia
are-
surgery,
you don't think
guys.
there
I
are
want hernia
persons?
surgery. Please send me
yeah, a
hernia surgery.
person is
Donate
going
to
to be of
Jolah
the human
Politics on
species.
PayPal,
If we're
Venmo, or
going to
Cash
talk the
App.
philosophical,
Pay for
I'm
my
going to say
hernia
anyone that
surgery.
is
Thank
from
you.
the like human species.
Yeah, so you think that we should feed corpses indefinitely?
Yeah, I would just say corpses. The second that they die, they don't have future, past. They don't have future, which I value future.
They're of the human species.
Yeah, can I finish? So when it comes to persons, if we're talking the philosophical term, like what I was saying, of the human species, yeah. And I'm going to say in certain cases, the personhood is going to be stripped away. The situation that is going to be stripped away, I wouldn't count a dead corpse as a human anymore because, like, I understand it is a human. I will have to bite the bullet on this, but I wouldn't just say it's the classification as a live human.
Well, then you disagree with the definition you gave a minute ago. 'cause you
Yeah, I
said
would just say that I have no problem with biting the bullet and say I was wrong about like me speaking. What I would count as a person is anything that is alive, and this is what I'm going to count as a person, where we are talking about personhood.
Yeah, but you don't think we have a moral obligation to keep a thing alive if we weren't the one who caused it to be in a dependent state. So
If we caused it, or if someone else
if
caused it.
if you weren't the one who caused this thing to be in a dependent
Yeah, I have
state,
no
you
moral
don't have an
obligation to them in the
obligation.
first place. Yeah, no, unless if
Yeah.
I'm in a doctor or a paramedic or anything like this, then I would have a causal obligation because I caused myself to be in a state where I have the moral obligation to keep them alive as long as I can.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, everybody's like moral system can lead to shitty or absurd conclusions.
Yeah, yours led to someone having sex with a 6-year-old thing that we know in 9 months will have a future conscious awareness. Mine didn't.
Well, if I think that there's no personhood there, but that thing came from a person or was the creation of a
Now you're moving
person
the goalpost.
biologically. No, I'm talking about property rights.
Okay, so now we're hopping to property rights. Okay, do you believe that children are owned by their parents?
No, but I believe in the special relations view of moral worth, which is that if something that doesn't have moral worth otherwise is imbued moral worth by a person that does, then they have moral worth and should be treated
Okay,
as
so
such.
if let's just say that this P3DO gives this 6-year-old only worth, and we know in 9 months from now, the 6-year-old is going to wake up, had no past experience and no present experience because they're under general anesthesia, whatever the fuck, right? And the P3DO,
Because they've been under general anesthesia for 6 years since before they were
Yep.
born.
no, let's just
If
say
you
that
wanna
the day
ask
they were
them a
born, they went
question, go in
straight under it. They
Discord.
had no past experience because
You
if
can
we're
ask them a
talking
question
I
in
think
Discord
the-
if you want
the
to. You can join
fetus
the chat and
has
ask a question
the
in
capacity
stage.
for conscious experience.
So
at
join
20 weeks
Discord, join
gestation,
Discord.
So I would
20
say
weeks.
it-
Okay,
In my
it-
video
so
description,
it
my
has-
stream
it has
description.
the
this baby
past-
that was born.
It has the past capacity for conscious experience.
Okay, so let's just say if we're talking like capacity or past experience, what do you mean by this?
What do I mean by past experience?
Yep. Like, what do you count as experience?
The presence of qualia.
Go in more depth.
What more depth do you want?
Being able to understand its surroundings. Like, what do you mean?
I mean the presence of qualia, the presence of felt experience.
Felt experience. So we know confirmed at 20 weeks they have
Also, just so you know, for future reference, if you need a definition for a word, don't be afraid to ask for it.
Oh yeah, that's why I asked. I said more in depth.
Okay.
Did I not say more in depth, please? Or more in
You,
depth?
you said more in depth, buddy.
Yeah, I said more in depth. Like, please go in more in depth about the word. But even with the situation, let's go with it. Is it confirmed that at 20 weeks, all babies will have this situation?
No.
Is it the majority case?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this just talk about it, like the minority in the situation. What was the earliest that
Wanna
a
talk
baby
about
was
you're
born?
trying to talk about black babies?
No,
That was a joke.
I know.
I don't know
But
the earliest a fetus has been
if I'm
born.
not mistaken, it's like 21 weeks and 5 days. Or we can go with the situation where like the brain isn't fully developed, or the portion of the brain that you would consider isn't there. If we want to get the medical term, 1 second. Um, okay, so this is called ANENCEPHALY.
Say the last part of it again.
What part?
The last like 6 letters of it.
CEPHALY.
Anencephaly.
Yep. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, it's when it's when enough of the brain never develops to the point where uh the human never develops the capacity for conscious experience.
Are babies not born with this and survive?
Um, like physical survival, yeah, I wouldn't call it a baby though.
Wait, what would you call it then?
Um, I don't know, like a post fetus.
Wait, but when they survive birth, everything like this, they still live. Like right now, there's adults that have this, where they were born with this situation, and you wouldn't count this as like a baby.
And the baby just has a connotation. We can use that word. It just has the connotation of there being a person.
I would just say
Right,
it is a
which there is.
person.
Well, I know you
So
would, but there
would you say
isn't
that it
one
would
there.
be immoral for anyone to have sex with this?
Um, if somebody imbues it with a sense of moral worth, and usually that's the case whenever these humans are kept alive, it's because someone cares about them as if they were a
Yeah, let's just say
person.
that the
So
P3DO is the one that keeps it alive. Should they be able to have sex with it?
the P3DO does it spontaneously for no reason.
Let's just say the P3DO is the dad and the mother left the picture the second it was born. The only one that has like any type of morals to this is the dad in this situation, or we can go with the mother.
Well, if they have the human on life support, then that
Wait, these babies
entails
aren't
that they've
on life
imbued it with
support
some.
always because when it comes to the situation, they're on machines to help them stay alive, like breathing, stuff like that. But they're able to still move, they're still able to interact with the world, which this wouldn't fall into your classifications. You would have to bite the bullet here and say, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with someone saying this. I would just find it weird.
No, because to the extent that that human is imbued moral worth by a person, then it
Yeah,
wouldn't be
the
moral.
worth is coming from a P3DO. That's the only worth that they're getting it from.
Um, so there are no parents. Oh, so you mean
No,
pedo? That's what you mean. You don't mean
yeah,
a machine. You mean a pedo.
like a P3DO. We're on YouTube. I'm not trying to get him banned. I debate on TikTok and other things, so I'm trying to watch my words so he
Just
doesn't
really
get
quick, I
banned.
want to say something for the stream. Anyone that wants to keep on watching this, I'm going to shut down the stream soon. And you can join the Discord in my video descriptions, my stream descriptions, and also, if you never listened to a debate, bro, philosophy debate, you're going to find out that if you want to hear about applications or utility of decisions we can make, that's not the place to go. They're going to be debating words and the meaning of words and different ethical and moral frameworks and whatever other really hyper
Yeah,
specificities they want to get into. So it's not going to be the best for many listening ears, unless if you want to engage in it. But if you do
I
join the Discord, there's a audience, there's a stage room. You can become part of the audience. We have like 5 people there right now. You could ask a question if you raise your hand in there. There's also a chat on here. I'm going to end the
I
stream,
do
guys.
want to say
Thank you guys for
quickly.
talking.
I do want to say quickly. 90. This is probably the worst conversation on like a quality of conversation level that I've had about politics or
Yeah, I would
philosophy.
just say that
So
you weren't able.
if you guys can I have my perms? I have them. Okay, yeah. So I would just say if you guys want to come on and talk to me about philosophy and not ask me about people with encephalopathy that look like 6-year-olds and whether it's okay to have sex with them, you should come and ask me about something else, and I promise you it'll be a much more productive and engaging conversation.
There's one conversation I think was kind of that I'm interested in about this, because the thing Loki brought up to me about immigration was like the causal relationship with like an immigrant coming to the border, obviously, and like, you know, is it our responsibility to take care of them?
It's not.
But then under that assumption, what do you say if that person came from a Central American country that the United States of America, our government played a role in destabilizing? If we destabilize that country, either economically or militarily, then would we have a responsibility to accept the person that had to flee from there?
In what sense did we do it? Because if we're talking like Afghanistan and Iraq, we were going in there trying to help them with the extremist groups, which they collapsed after we left. We can look at the situation in Afghanistan. We were upholding their government way too long. We should have backed out a lot later, but we were actively trying to help. This was a consensual contract between us.
Okay, let's say
if we're talking Central America, this is going to be depending on the country, and then we can go into this depth about did we intentionally do this? Because if we did, then we would have some type of moral obligation. If we didn't, then it would be upon their government.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah.
The issue, I mean, the main issue, Jola, is just that this is a stupid basis for morality.
I would disagree. You were able to engage with it, and the hypothetical I
know,
gave you.
buddy. I know, Loki. It sucks because you really want to hear the sound of your own voice, and it sucks when you have to hear the sound of other people's voices. It's like so triggering, and it sucks so bad. So the problem with this as a basis for society and moral beliefs in general is that if, let's say, there was a fatal car crash where a mother was driving with her baby that was alive and conscious, and the mother dies in the car crash and the baby doesn't, but it, waddles, it crawls out of the car and it's crying and it needs someone to feed it or else it will starve to death. You don't have an obligation to pick it up or take it to
Rita, thank you for the $10. Rita,
or a
appreciate you.
hospital
Rita,
or
Rita.
anywhere.
Thank you, Rita. Rita.
And it's actually perfectly fine
Rita.
under Loki's moral system for you to just sit, watch, and laugh as that baby slowly starves to death. Because the only way for Loki that you can have a moral obligation to that baby is if you were the one who caused it to starve to death. That's a horrible basis for morality.
Okay, under that question, really quick, under that question, for anyone watching, again, I'll put the Discord link in there. We actually got some viewership in the other stream. We went from 100 to 200, so I think they like the we have to bring in some modern topics other than just like obsessing on one word, which I know is not your fault, DJ. Yeah, we have 8 audience people. I saw some say they want to raise their hands, so whatever format you want to use, DJ, you could do that and have them engage with the conversation. If you're watching again on the streams, join the Discord, join the conversation, join the Discord. We want more people in Discord, so we have them to talk to. We have you guys to talk to. Please join us. We're ending the streams. We continue this conversation until 4 a.m. every night. 4 a.m. minimum, maybe 5 or 6. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, donate to Jolah Politics on all the things. Thank you for DJ and low key, and thank you for the people that join Discord that want to ask questions. But yeah, thank you guys.
Smash like, subscribe.
Smash like, yeah. All right. Stream is ending. End.
Is the other stream